So Vuah Tov, everyone, and I hope everyone had a bright, delightful, enlightening Hanukkah festival. Welcome to Tillis Tell Stories for Saturday night. The title of this week's video is The Power of Good News. I adapted and supplemented it from an art school book called Tales of Tzaddikim. Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch of Ziditchover had no sons, but his 4 younger brothers and 3 of their sons were all very special. Once, one of his grandsons, when they were little, had become gravely ill. Everyone in the extended family was praying for him. Nevertheless, his condition grew worse from day to day. Rabbi Avraham Sender, who was the name of who was one of the Rebbe's 4 younger brothers, and the father of the sick child, he was totally distraught. Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Eichenstein, founder of the Ziditchover dynasty, was a prominent disciple of the seer of Lublin. He championed the position that the practice of Kabbalah had to be firmly based on the study of the Kabbalah of the Holy Ari of Sfat. He wrote and published numerous commentaries on Kabbalah, including a Teret Tzvi on the Zohar and several on the weekly readings. The Malbim, a very famous commentator on the Torah and on the Tanakh, that is all 24 books of scripture, was a student of his. After his passing in 1831, he was succeeded in Ziditchover by his nephew Yitzhak Isaac, and another nephew, Yitzhak Isaac Yehuda Yechiel, became the first Rebbe of Kamarno. Kamarno is therefore a branch of Ziditchover, and they're also very into Kabbalah. The situation grew so critical for the little boy that late one night the doctors feared that the end was near. The Rebbe was accustomed to devote the late hours of the night to holy study and prayer. No one ever dared disturb the Rebbe when he secluded himself in his attic room, shutting the entire world out of his consciousness in order to concentrate on his sublime thoughts. But if the Rebbe was not told now, it might be too late. The Rebbe's brothers, that is the sick boy's father and the sick boy's uncles, the Rebbe's brothers, thought and thought, who could they send to disturb the Rebbe without incurring his wrath? They finally decided to send Yehuda Tzvi, the Rebbe's favorite nephew, who later in his life also became one of the Rebbe's successors, as Ziditchover Rebbe. With a small lantern in his hand, the young boy climbed up the narrow staircase leading to the attic where his uncle had secluded himself. When he reached the door, he hesitated and then coughed. He didn't dare to knock. The Rebbe heard, rose, and went to open the door. No, he asked. Like, don't you know, nobody disturbs me at night. Little Yehuda Tzvi beamed up at his saintly uncle, his cherubic face aglow. I've come to tell you good news, Vetter. Vetter is Yiddish for uncle. Vetter, your nephew is feeling better, but you still must pray for his complete recovery. The Rebbe beamed with joy to hear the good news that his little nephew was getting out of danger, and he motioned to the boy to enter his study. He then went over to a cupboard and took out some herbs. He put them in a small paper bag and handed it to the boy with instructions. Tell your aunt to boil this up into a tea and give it to the child while it is still hot. It will make him sweat and he will get better. The little boy thanked them and rushed out of the room, down the stairs, and straight to his uncle, Rabbi Alexander Sender, with the instructions. The tea was made and given to the patient spoon by spoon. Within hours he had passed the crisis and recovered completely. The next morning, Reb Sender went to his elder brother, the Rebbe, to tell him that his son had recovered. Instead of greeting him with joy like he did with the little boy, the Rebbe looked sternly at him and said, you can learn a lesson in Chassidut from your nephew, Yehuda Tzvi, the little boy. You, with your long face and worried looks, only increased my own anxiety and suffering. But that little boy knew exactly what to do to change my mood to a happy one. And once my spirits were lifted, I felt divine intuition returning to me, and I knew at once what to do to bring about the patient's recovery. In the Torah reading we read this morning in synagogue, from the section of the Torah called Vayigash, there's an extraordinary parallel to this story. That Yaakov, the father of Yosef, was in mourning or semi-mourning for 22 years, from the time that Yosef was kidnapped down to Egypt until the time when finally the brothers found him, and after different machinations, Yosef revealed himself to them. 22 years he was mourning or being sad about Yosef, and for 22 years he not once had any divine inspiration, because it doesn't work when you're not happy. It's one of the requirements. Or even more perhaps, being unhappy is a disqualification. And how was he reinvigorated? They chose to send Serach bat Asher bat Yaakov, that is Asher's daughter Serach, who was a singer and songwriter in modern terminology. And she found the way to incorporate the good news of Yosef being alive into a song she sang for her Zedi, the grandfather. Some say that this song featured the phrase "O Yosef Chai." "O Yosef Chai." You might be familiar with its opposite with this that they sang about Yosef. That was sung about Yosef. That the brothers sung about when Yosef asked, "How's the old man, your father?" So that became a line in the song. "O Davinu Chai, O Davinu Chai, our father's still alive, O Davinu Chai." So now Zerach sang to Yaakov, "O Yosef Chai, O Yosef Chai, Yosef is alive, O Yosef Chai." So it's always good to be the bearer of good news and a good omen and good luck as well to do so. Shavua Tov and Chodesh Tov, a great week and an outstanding month.